This is Traci in Tulare, California. You're on with Traci and Don.
Well, hello again, Traci and Don. How have you guys been?
Just fine.
This is about indoctrination and shared experiences. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, okay, let me grab my paper. I wrote all this down so I
Good.
don't forget.
Very good.
Indoctrination. I have heard you mention that word more than once, and it just sounds so diabolical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it is.
Evil.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. The question I'm going to ask about it, is it necessarily a bad thing? And I want to give some context to that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Cool. Okay, so I've mentioned my grandma more than once on this show. When my grandma would take me to church almost every Sunday when I was a little girl, I can tell you that my grandma intended no malice by taking me there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she wasn't, I don't know, when I hear indoctrination, I get a little sad because I'm like, well, my grandma wasn't doing anything evil.
Was she? Or, I mean, I can't speak for it because I don't know what she was doing. I mean, are you saying that she indoctrinated you?
I guess I am, because she's the one that raised me to believe in God. She did the same with my mom and all 5 of her kids.
Okay.
I guess maybe I don't fully understand the concept of indoctrination because, like I said, it sounds so bad. But my grandma's a really good person who didn't mean.
So she took you to, let's just go through this. She took you to church, taught you to believe in God, right?
Yes.
Why is that important? Why was it important that you believe in God?
She found it important enough to, quote, save my soul.
Okay, why do you need salvation?
I would assume so that I don't burn forever.
Do you think you deserve to burn forever?
Oh, God, no.
Then why would you believe that? Why would somebody who loves you tell you to believe in a God who is going to save your soul, which they believe deserves to burn forever? Why would your grandmother believe that you deserve to burn forever? And why would she want you to believe that?
Right.
And why is that good?
I know, boy, you kind of got me there. With my grandma, you know, it goes way back. Her mom taught it to her on.
I understand.
On and on and on.
Yeah, I know how indoctrination works. Indoctrinated
Right.
people indoctrinate other people. What I'm saying is you were saying, well, she didn't mean anything evil, so why is it bad? And I'm saying that she basically told you, as your grandmother, that she believed you deserved eternal torture and that you should believe that about yourself. Do you think that's a bad thing? I do, and I'm okay saying it. You know, that is a bad thing to teach people, and that's why I think indoctrination is a bad thing.
Well, you know, because when you say the whole, I don't want to misquote you, but that she thinks that I deserve it, I can tell you that Grandma doesn't think that anyone deserves it. She's that. Blah.
Why would
She's actually said that?
So why would she admire a God that would do something that she
I
thinks
know.
to people that she thinks they don't deserve?
I know.
Like this is the thing. The issue I have. Some people
It's kind
say
of a lame excuse.
Some
in my
people say
mind.
that indoctrination is the same as education. It's not. Education is teaching somebody about a thing, right? I can teach you how something, like how this mug that I've got in front of me is made. That's not indoctrinating you. It's just teaching you something. When I'm indoctrinating a person, I generally consider that there should be something that is called introjection going on, right? Have you ever heard of the term projection, when you project something onto somebody else? So basically, You're cheating on your spouse, and so you start suspecting they're cheating on you all the time, and you get all suspicious of them because you're a cheater and you think everybody's cheating. And so you start projecting onto people this thing. Not everybody does it. I'm not saying everybody, I guess we probably all do to an extent, but not everybody does it to an egregious degree to other people. But we do tend to project certain things onto people sometimes. Introjection is when you pick up on what I think about you, and then you internalize that and you start thinking it about yourself. This usually can happen to children. And it usually happens when an adult that's rearing them, that they admire and that is their caregiver, gives them really either positive or negative reinforcement. And then the child starts to see themselves as kind of this mirror, right? So they start having an attitude toward themselves because they've been taught by somebody else that this is what they look like. So you are bad, you do bad things, or you can do this, you're good. You can say things that are negative or positive to a kid. It doesn't necessarily sink into that level. But if you say them often enough and with enough, heart to it, the kid is going to start adopting those views and internalizing that. The problem is that it overrides the person's actual views of themselves, right? So you've got this kid who maybe doesn't think they're a horrible person, but mom keeps telling them that they're horrible. And so after a while, they start believing that they're horrible. So this isn't really the kid's view. It's mom's view that the kid is adopting. And so that's called introjection when that happens. It's when I start thinking that I pick up on what you think of me, and then I internalize that and I start thinking it.
And I'm thinking now, boy, that whole concept of sin really plays into that, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, the introjection that most, when we think of religion in the West, what's required there is a huge level of like self-denigration. You've got to believe horrible things about yourself for this religion to make sense. And that's why I'm not down with it. And to me, if you aren't trying to interject things onto somebody, if you're not really imposing on on their self-directed life and their self-directed thinking, then I'm happy calling what you're doing education. But when you start trying to get a person to sort of identify as you're telling them they need to identify, as opposed to fostering and nurturing their identity, then you're doing more harm than good. And there are actually negative mental health results of doing this to people.
Well, it's funny because I do have OCD.
Well, I don't know if this is what caused it. I'm just saying that there are some people who have written about the negative things that can happen to people mentally when you do this to them.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, and see, that's just part of the reason I call you guys so much, because at least where I'm from, if there are atheists around here, they're absolutely in the closet. The only other atheist I know of is my sister. And me and her are not on good terms right now, but that's a whole separate show.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I like to call you guys so much, because you always give me an answer.
Well, that's the purpose of the show, is to try to have a dialogue with folks.
Right. And I appreciate it very much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just, when Grandma would take me to church, I'd always look forward to Sunday. It was always something fun,
Sure.
We'd go to McDonald's afterwards. And
yeah, cookies in Sunday school and little,
the rituals are comforting.
You get to sing songs and stick the little, people up on the board, here's the donkey.
It's family time and community time. There's a lot of good things about it as well.
Yeah, you package it. I had somebody tell me one time, and, I do not condone poisoning animals, right? It's just a metaphor.
No.
But somebody said, if you want to poison a dog, you wrap it in bacon. Right?
Oh my gosh!
So I mean, this is, but it's
an analogy.
It's a metaphor. Yeah, it's meant to be. It's just meant to say that you don't just, if you hand the dog poison, it won't eat it. And what they're saying is, if you hand a person something horrible, they're not going to swallow it, but wrap it in something nice, and they'll swallow the toxic crap along with the thing that goes down easy.
Right. Yeah. I probably would too, figuratively and literally.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like some of these ideas are poison. They really damage people. Right. And I don't think that. I think if we had religions that were all real supportive of developing identities, right? If it basically said investigate yourself and see who you are and see what you love and who you want to be and what makes you happy in life and pursue it. I mean, if that's what religion did, I would be like, that's not really indoctrination, right? You're not indoctrinating them. You're not telling that. You're telling them to go discover. To me, learning about yourself and having people there that support learning about yourself without telling you who you need to be is necessary for. I believe at this point in my reading that it's necessary for mental well-being.
So do I. Like I've mentioned. In past episodes, with my OCD, one of my very, very strong fears was this idea of burning in hell for eternity. And that has caused me a great deal of grief over the years. I can tell you guys that thanks to talking to you all and thanks to your chat, other atheists, I've almost entirely let go of the idea of hell. It's not
awesome.
Compatible with the loving God.
There are a lot of people that call our show that have been atheists for many years and who still have issues with that.
Yeah, I can't shake that fear of hell. It's
scary.
And that's really sad.
It is. It is. I mean, I hate to think of that, but yeah, no. I mean, there's so many attitudes too. It's not just hell. Like some of them are more insidious. At least with hell, you can identify it as like a doctrinal thing that you were taught, and you can say, I don't know why I'm still afraid of it. I don't really believe in it, but I have this fear of it, and I know that that's not rational. Whereas some people take, like, for example, we didn't really get too much into the passage that this guy was talking about, but like, wives obey your husbands. You can walk out of religion and still carry that with you, right? As a woman or as a man, you could go out and carry that with you, that I am, men are inherently superior and I should subject myself to them, or women should subject themselves to me. I mean, well, there are people who I know who left churches where the women were badly abused, and the churches promoted that as like, the marital model. And these women to this day are still struggling with issues.
Right. And they just have to suck it up instead of
and I don't doubt that this harms, the men in these religions too that come out of it with this attitude, because it's not like you just walk away and suddenly you have this idea of equity after being taught inequity for so many years, right? It's you have to get that stuff out of your head.
Exactly. And not to segue too much, but that right there, that concept of women being inferior to men, that's always bothered me, because
I wonder why.
To think of my well, I am female, but on top of that, I'm a very strong, independent female. So I'm like, there is not a man on the planet that's going to tell me how to live my life, I'm sure.
There you go.
Well, and to be fair, I know a lot of guys who have issues with that too. Like there are men in the church who are just this just doesn't sit with me. That they're not okay with it, even though they're kind of on the privilege end of it while they're in that church setting. There are men who are just like, I don't like I'm not comfortable with this.
Right. So. Well, guys, I had a second topic, but if we don't have time this week, me, I'll call back.
Well, we do have a whole set of callers.
We do, and we have another theist that we need to get to, so I appreciate your call.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Dawn and Tracy.
Okay.